It's fake, he says. Donald Trump, in all caps, which means he's serious, blames Canada for its fraudulent use of an advertisement, leaving him no choice but to announce all trade negotiations with Canada are hereby terminated. The offending advertisement? Not actually from Canada, but from the Ontario government. But I'll play you the first 10 seconds.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs.
Now, you might already realize why this sounds fake, because that voice, seemingly addressing Trump's tariffs, that voice belongs to the 40th president of the United States, who died 2 decades ago.
America's jobs and growth are at stake.
Trump calls this use of Ronald Reagan fake. He's wrong. It's not fake. It's not AI. But it has been selectively edited. And in a way, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation itself says misrepresents the speech Reagan actually gave 38 years ago. So what's going on here? And then what's really going on here? The nice thing about video is that you can generally see where the edits are. Like right now, if we hold this shot, you can be reasonably assured that we haven't manipulated what I'm saying right now. But when you see edit points like these punch-ins and zoom-outs, what's a little less obvious is that you're seeing us splice together 2 completely different takes. Like, I record everything I want to say on a wide shot first, then we cut, then I record the exact same thing for a second time on a medium shot, and voila. Editing makes it look like we just had 2 cameras running at the same time instead of 1 camera running twice. Someday we'll actually just get 2 cameras. But when we're only talking about audio, it's basically impossible for the listener to know where the edits are. And that's why Trump says this ad is fake. Like I said before, it hasn't been manipulated in the sense that nobody's making Ronald Reagan say anything that he didn't actually say. He really did say about tariffs that over the long run.
But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer.
And I can prove this to you by showing you that same clip, but with video this time, direct from the Ronald Reagan library.
Over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer.
But there is something going on here with this Ontario government ad, which I can show you now by playing it in full, except at the same time, I'll show you the full transcript of Ronald Reagan's actual radio address in 1987, and you'll see how the ad is selectively choosing and even reorganizing Reagan's words.
When someone says, let's impose tariffs on foreign imports, it looks like they're doing the patriotic thing by protecting American products and jobs. And sometimes for a short while it works, but only for a short time. But over the long run, such trade barriers hurt every American worker and consumer. High tariffs inevitably lead to retaliation by foreign countries and the triggering of fierce trade wars. Then the worst happens. Markets shrink and collapse, businesses and industries shut down, and millions of people lose their jobs. Throughout the world, there's a growing realization that the way to prosperity for all nations is rejecting protectionist legislation and promoting fair and free competition. America's jobs and growth are at stake.
So what did you think? The Reagan Foundation says this misrepresents Reagan's speech in 1987. And when you see the side-by-side like that, we can guess why. But I've listened to Reagan's full address, and the core message of both the ad and the address is the same. Tariffs bad, free trade good. What's different is the context in which these comments were made. Reagan, obviously in 1987, wasn't referring to Trump's tariffs. What he was actually referring to were the tariffs his own administration was applying on Japan, because Japan was flooding the US with cheap semiconductors, and tariffs were punishment. But he was clear.
In certain select cases, like the Japanese semiconductors, we've taken steps to stop unfair practices against American products, but we've still maintained our basic long-term commitment to free trade and economic growth.
So overall, is this a fake ad? Not really, except that it is perhaps a kind of recontextualization. Like anytime Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech has been appropriated to frame some current struggle, but using his moral authority. But call that whatever you want, because what's maybe more relevant than the bickering over real versus fake is why Trump has reacted the way he has. One possible reason Trump has lashed out in this way over the use of Ronald Reagan's voice is that Trump himself has used Ronald Reagan's voice.
Make America great again.
I was saved by God to make America great again.
Drain the swamp of overtaxation, overregulation, and runaway inflation.
I didn't know the swamp was this dirty and this deep. Drain the swamp.
I think it's safe to say Trump admires Ronald Reagan and would very plausibly be offended if Reagan was used against him.
I mean, Ronald Reagan is such a revered figure in Republican circles. So many people that work for Trump used to work for Reagan, and Trump has tried to paint himself as someone who is just like Reagan.
Around the start of Trump's second term, he hung an oil portrait of Reagan in the Oval Office, giving him a prominent spot near Trump's desk. In February, he wished Reagan a happy birthday, calling him a giant of American history, a lion of freedom and liberty. On the very first day Trump was sworn in, it was even widely reported that Trump was reinstalling the Reagan rug, the literal floor covering Reagan used during his administration, which Trump then used during his first term, which Biden had removed, and then which Trump had put back in. And even the Resolute desk itself.
They give you a choice of about 7 different desks, but this is the one I chose. Ronald Reagan had it. FDR had it.
Ronald Reagan is a revered figure in the Republican Party. He's widely regarded as one of the great presidents of the 20th century. And Donald Trump has repeatedly paid homage to him throughout his political career and tried to compare his presidency to Reagan's.
Trump believes, or at least says he believes, that, mirroring his own position, Ronald Reagan loved tariffs. But this is really wrong.
Reagan was not a big fan of tariffs. And I think that, the clip from his radio address in 1987 is typical of the attitude he had towards them throughout his presidency.
And he railed against tariffs, saying that they would be a huge threat to the global economy. They would be a repeat of the 1930s and the Great Depression. So when Trump says Reagan loves tariffs, there could be nothing further from the truth in many respects.
So I think it's fair to say there's something about a Canadian ad using Reagan's words that might sting for Trump, particularly. But the even bigger picture, and maybe the much more simple one, is that this is just one more down in a long series of ups and downs that Trump has set in motion since day one.
You had his comments about making Canada the 51st state, calling Prime Minister Trudeau Governor Trudeau, creating these allegations of fentanyl trafficking that aren't borne out by reality. Just, on and on and on down the list, you find one thing after another that Trump is doing to hurt what had been a very good relationship between two neighboring countries.
So the way I take Trump's latest attack, blaming Canada for his own decision to terminate trade talks, which were only happening in the first place because of tariffs Trump himself imposed, which flew in the face of a free trade agreement Trump's own people negotiated. I don't know if I actually see this as dramatically as I've been seeing reported in all the major headlines today. I'm not so sure trade talks are being blown up here or anything like that. And Canada's Prime Minister certainly doesn't seem to either.
We stand ready to pick up on that progress and build on that progress when the Americans are ready to have those discussions.
Because remember, as easily as Trump can terminate talks, he's always just another social media post away from deciding to restart them.